Here in Vancouver, inventory has skyrocketed, sales have plummeted, and pricing is starting to be on a trajectory downward. We know that construction is also dropping as well. We just had the federal election. Are the Liberals and Mark Carney going to bring some stability here in the marketplace in Vancouver specifically? I have all the Q1 charts here to show you what's been going on. There is some interesting news and shows you exactly why buyers have essentially disappeared, why transactions haven't taken place. And it's going to be interesting to come and visit this at the end of Q2 to see if there can be some stability, because when you look at these charts that we're going to go through, it shows that the market is in ruin right now. This is not a great place to be if you are a seller. If you are a buyer, it's a fantastic place, but because consumer confidence in Vancouver, or I should say in Canada as a whole, is so low, a lot of buyers are starting to miss out on good opportunities. And if some stability in the marketplace can take place here, with now that we have a federal party in place, we can start to see, or hoping to start to see, some movement in terms of the inventory here in Vancouver. We know now that the Liberal Party will form a minority government here in Canada. And if you look specifically here in Vancouver, we know that the NDP has been completely wiped out. Those NDP voters are turned to the Liberal side of things. So if you look at Vancouver specifically and how the majority of Vancouverites voted, there are a lot of people are very happy who are those Liberal voters, or those NDP turned to Liberal voters here in Vancouver, who make up these buyers. We also know that when we look at real estate as a whole, it doesn't really matter what is going on in terms of interest rates, in terms of some of these other factors. If there's no stability, it doesn't matter what those interest rates are. And we saw that perfectly timed with COVID, when we still had interest rates at very low rates, sub 2% or low 2%. There's instability in the marketplace. And when that consumer confidence is not there, people don't want to transact. So as we get into some of these charts here, you're going to see exactly what's happening here after Q1 in Vancouver, and we're going to be able to compare it in a couple months to see if we can see that stability coming up here in real estate here in Vancouver. As we jump into the first charts here, you can see these year-over-year markers here, and they have home sales, new listings, active listings, pricing, under construction, and population growth. And you can see that there are some very big differentiations in terms of the polar opposites of what you're wanting to see when it comes to a strong marketplace. The first chart here that we're going to look at is the quarter-over-quarter numbers and the year-over-year numbers, and it shows exactly what we're seeing boots on the ground here in Vancouver. So starting with home sales here, dropped 13.3% quarter after quarter. Year over year, dropped 5.1%. You can see that new listings are up 18%. Active listings are up 27% year over year. Pricing has dropped 1.3%. So these are all markers that you're looking at if you are a buyer. If we know that listings are exploding, sales are dropping, obviously pricing will start to come down, but it is quite amazing when you look at the pricing in the HBI here. We've seen really modest losses despite the spike in inventory and the lack of sales. And I think that is a testament to the market itself, and why I would be weary if you're a buyer of trying to wait for things to bottom out, because we haven't seen it despite of all these other measures that we have been seeing on the ground. And I mentioned it in my last video. We know that from a Bank of Canada survey at the end of 2024, that there is a huge amount of population, about a 20% increase of renters or homeowners that are wanting to get into the market here in 2025. Those buyers haven't disappeared. I see in all my analytics that I track for my listings, there are a ton of buyers out there. They're just not transacting. As soon as they sense some confidence, and I think the first step in this will be the federal government being in place, which has happened with this election. The second step, we'll see if the Bank of Canada is going to change rates. If we start to see some rates drop and we have the federal government in place, it could start to shift the market into more of a competitive landscape where some of this inventory is finally going to get picked up. One thing to note here, population growth, we actually increased 1.7% year over year as well. Unemployment rate, mortgage arrears, and month of inventory sales to new listings ratio as well. Unemployment rate, 6% Q1 of 2025. That has been increasing. We also know that long-term unemployment has been plaguing Canada as a whole. That obviously is going to affect home buyers as renters as well. And mortgage arrears, 0.19% that we've seen in quarter one of 2025 year over year. We also have some unemployment numbers that we're going to jump into, mortgage arrears and things of that nature as well. So let's bring up these first charts here. These are the home sales in British Columbia and the new listings, and you can see that they are on opposite ends of the spectrum here. This is what you're really wanting to look at if you are a buyer. You want to operate in a zone where sales are way down and inventory is up. You have a lot of selection and that gap is quite wide. You can see around 2021, 2022 on both of these charts here, they were on pretty even footing. Sales were keeping up with the new listings, which means that you were in quite a competitive marketplace. But essentially post 2022, sales have just continued to drop and decline, and inventory since 2023 has had a pretty sharp increase when it comes to what we're seeing here on the ground overall here after quarter one here in 2025. As we get into these active listing and months of inventory charts, you can see again a huge increase in these active listings since 2022, and essentially since 2023 it's almost been a straight line upward. In the last quarter specifically has been a huge increase, and we haven't seen active listings in this amount of numbers since 2015, so almost 10 years. So that gives you an oversight if you're a buyer or seller trying to understand these market conditions. These are not normal times. These are numbers that we haven't seen in a decade. And then when we go to months of inventory, you can see that we've had a massive spike here since the end of 2024, and we're sitting about 8 months of inventory. So what does that mean? It would take about 8 months right now across British Columbia for all the listings to be absorbed. Anything that is above 6 months of inventory is considered a buyer market condition. So it's, again, if you're a buyer, months of inventory, this is looking good. If you're looking for active listings and selection, again, these charts are great for you. Next, as we jump into the MLS benchmark house price here in BC, you can see that from 2023 on, there's been a very slight decrease in pricing. The last couple months, we had about 3 months consecutively of month over month drops in price point. We saw in the data up above year over year, we saw about 1.3% drop, but we're still in the grand scheme of things. When you look at these charts, we're still very high, the 95 plus percentile in terms of property values. But I do think a lot of these charts that we're looking at, when we get this stability here in place, I think we're going to see these lines peter out a little bit, and I don't think they're going to be going rutshod anymore with these sharp increases or declines when it comes to inventory and sales. Population growth is something that's interesting as well. Obviously, we had a couple quarters here that were quite strong in terms of population growth, but the last 6 months, the last quarter for sure, we're starting to see a decline going back to numbers that are more average when it comes to the province. You can see that when we look at these quarters, BC with the population growth sits around on average, I would say about that 80,000 mark. That's just right down here. We had several years, we had such an influx of population growth, and we know that depending on what happens now with Mark Carney, he has had some policies about wanting to grow the country to 100 million people. We know that non-residents and those statuses in terms of population have dropped off big time, but we can see with some of the other that I've outlined in previous videos, permanent residence growth is still at all-time highs in terms of those applications, just over 400,000 per year. And then when we look at BC's population growth, we have started to see a drop off, but even with those drop offs, so those are more listening to what the average is when we've seen this in British Columbia. So with the population increase of just over 1%, we want to look at these unemployment rates as well. And these are, numbers that is starting to tick upward. This has happened essentially the last couple of years since 2023. It continues to creep up here. This big spike here is during COVID. And overall, we were just coming out of a time where unemployment was near its lowest levels here in BC with the seasonally adjusted numbers. But now it's starting to creep up here. So it's going to be interesting, with these tariffs. In BC, we are a lot more insulated than the rest of the country, but there is going to be some job loss and employment loss because of what's going on with the economy as well. We can see as we jump over into the mortgage delinquency rates here, they've been on a steady stream upward. In the last quarter here at a big spike. You can see this here that's starting to really jump up, and we know that with mortgage renewals 2025 and 2026, there's a record amount of mortgage renewals, and that has for sure influenced the amount of inventory that we're seeing around here in Vancouver. People are trying to get ahead of the curve. If they know that they're not going to be able to make payments under a new mortgage interest rate, it's better now to cut their losses, make sure that they don't have that stress. And we know that there are a lot of people people who over leverage themselves. So these delinquency rates are starting to go up. So if you're a buyer as well, are flexible and you're looking for opportunities, you will find some opportunities in these delinquency rates or before people are delinquent because they're trying to liquidate their homes. Finally, with these construction numbers, as we finish off with these Q1 findings, again, it doesn't paint a good picture for the future. You can see that in the gray here, and I've outlined this before, purpose-built rentals, that has been what everybody has been wanting to build, or everybody's been incentivized to build. And that's why there's just been this massive bull run. But you can see that condo construction now, we've had multiple stat lines here where it continues to drop, which is not good. We peaked out just under 50,000. We're now at a mark at around 45,000 dwellings under construction. We don't need that, especially, if population growth continues to be improved, if there's more stability in the marketplace, more people are wanting to come here, this is going to be a problem. We know that with purpose-built rentals, there's going to be over 20,000 units that are going to come to BC around the province, and that is going to hurt rental numbers, and it can also soften the market too, because the rental market isn't as strong as it was even a year or so ago. So it just gives people a little bit more options. And then obviously with these single family numbers here, we have been in decline now for about 2 years or so, and those numbers are going to continue to drop. All these detached homes that you're seeing in all these areas in Vancouver, Burnaby, wherever, so that they can build these duplexes, multiplexes, condos, they're going to continue to drop. So it's going to be interesting if there's still this continued bull run of rentals that continues to drop off, and resale numbers in terms of dwellings under construction continue to drop. It's going to create some interesting dynamics in the marketplace where there's going to be fewer opportunities for people to be able to buy resale. If you're wanting to buy resale and own your property and there's fewer options, obviously that's going to influence price. And if dwellings are under construction, and we know that permits are very low, they're not keeping up a pace, we are going to have a supply shortage in the future. The final chart we're going to look at here are the homeowner dwellings under construction in British Columbia, excluding the rentals. So they're going to take all the data here minus the rentals, put it on one graph, and you can see that it is dropping quite drastically. And we know that even with that small, minute population growth of just over 1%, and as of January of this year, BC has a population of just over 5.7 million. That 1% population growth is 100,000 people. So if we have construction dropping, and we know that even with small growth here in the province, it's not enough. It's going to be problematic. We need these lines of construction and permits to be filling it, and for construction to continue to drop so that there's not that lag, because there is going to be a lag. It's going to happen in the next couple of years, and we're going to see another shortage. I know that is one of Carney's remarks. He said, build, baby, build. So proof is going to be in the pudding here to see if over the next couple of months after Q2, what these charts are going to look like. But I do think now that we have the Liberals in place, the Bank of Canada will be dropping rates again. They could be doing another 0.5 drop because they paused the last meeting. That is going to bring stability into the marketplace, and that is what is needed here for things to turn around. It needs that stability. Consumer confidence needs to increase, and I think we're starting to see that wave. So have we bottomed out here at the market? I think there may be a good chance to do that, but we'll have to see over the next couple of weeks and months. Thanks again so much. We'll see you on the next one.